Well, hey everyone, let's talk about my favorite Star Wars books. Hi, my name is Jonathan, and this is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. On a recent video, I talked about how I had read some Boba Fett books. They were a middle grade book, and somebody commented that they had tried to read Star Wars and got overwhelmed because there's like 200 different Star Wars books. And that got me thinking that I don't know that I've ever done a video talking about any Star Wars books other than maybe just books that I had read that particular month. What I want to do is I want to share some of my favorite Star Wars books. Now, these are not necessarily the best Star Wars books, but they're ones that I've read and really, really enjoyed. The first one I'm going to start with, and this is actually a no-brainer, and that is the Heir to the Empire trilogy by Timothy Zahn. And so we start off with Heir to the Empire. The second book that we have is Dark Force Rising, and then we have The Last Command. And these three books, they're actually the ones that got the whole Star Wars novels and books and stories. They got everything started. These were written back in the early 90s. I remember reading them when I was in middle school, probably like 90, 92, 93. This was published in, the hardcover came out in 91. So I would have probably read it in 92 because I got it from the library. In these particular books, it's kind of a continuation of where Return of the Jedi left off. And so Han and Luke and Leia, they are attempting to figure out a new way to run the government. Han and Leia are married at this point, and they're navigating the New Republic, and they're doing all these things. And then out of nowhere, a new threat in the form of Admiral Thrawn appears. And there's kind of there's a Jedi who might be a clone, and there's all kinds of things that take place in this trilogy. It is absolutely wild. It is ranked among everybody's favorite Star Wars books. So if you're looking for a good place to begin reading, like you're overwhelmed by the 200 plus books there are, I would definitely start right here with this trilogy. Next up is another trilogy, and that is the Jedi Academy trilogy. And these are by Kevin J. Anderson. And there are three here. There is Jedi Search, Champions of the Force, and Dark Apprentice. Sorry, I did that backward. Should go Dark Apprentice is number 2, and then Champions of the Force is number 3. And in this particular one, Luke is trying to gather Force-sensitive people in order to start a new Jedi Academy and rebuild the Jedi Temple. And while he's doing that, there is a new threat of a planet-killing ship similar to the Death Star, and this one is called the Sun Crusher. And so they have to figure out what to do with that. Meanwhile, some of the Jedi that Luke is training go rogue, and so there's some things that happen with there in one of the books, there is a very dramatic, very tense scene. Admiral Akbar, there we go, where it's Admiral Akbar and something that he gets involved with, and it ends pretty badly. And that's not much of a spoiler, but it was pretty dramatic, pretty tense for me. I enjoyed it a lot. So that is the Jedi Academy trilogy by Kevin J. Anderson. Next, I want to show you this book right here, and this is Kenobi by John Jackson Miller. This right here is probably my favorite Star Wars book. I love the trilogies, but this right here is probably my favorite. As you can tell from the cover, this is about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and this takes place almost immediately following the events of the movie Revenge of the Sith. So after Obi-Wan delivers Luke to his aunt and uncle on Tatooine, that's where this story takes place. And it's actually a Western. So the way that it's written has a lot of Western tropes in it. And so Obi-Wan is trying to lay low. He doesn't want to draw any attention to himself. But then there's this town on Tatooine that seems to find itself in conflict with the Tusken Raiders. And so he keeps getting drawn in. And there's a lady that lives in the town that Obi-Wan finds himself drawn to. And so if you've seen any Western movies, if you've ever watched any cowboy movies, a lot of what you read in here are things that you might have seen in one of those movies. I read this book in like 3 days. I mean, you can see it's pretty substantial, but I read it in like 3 days. Fantastic. John Jackson Miller is a great writer, but this right here, not only is it about one of my favorite Star Wars characters, it's my favorite Star Wars book. Now, before I get to the last physical copy I have, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. These aren't necessarily books that I'm gonna recommend. I'm gonna recommend an author to you, and that author is Claudia Gray. Now, of all of the books that I recommended here, they're what we call the expanded universe, which means they were written prior to Disney acquiring the Star Wars franchise in, I think, 2014. So there was hundreds of books that were written, and once Disney bought them, they were all turned over and considered legends. And so those books aren't being written anymore. They're legends that are told. Now, some people think that they're the real Star Wars books, but you've got the legends, and then the Disney books that have been put out are called the Canon books, and some of those are really, really good. Some of them are okay, but some of them are really good. And the ones that are typically really good are written by a lady named Claudia Gray. So if you see a book, a Star Wars book that's written by Claudia Gray, I would highly recommend that you grab it. She wrote one that I read called Lost Stars. And Lost Stars is kind of a romance book. It's about two kids who grow up together, and they go off to the Empire's training school, I guess. As things progress through there, the male in the relationship, he decides to join the rebellion, and the girl in the relationship, she stays with the Empire. And as you read this, you see that each of these characters is involved with every major event that took place in the Star Wars timeline. So they were there when the Death Star blew up. They were there at the Battle of Hoth. They were there on Endor. They were there at Jakku. All of these different things all took place around this as these two characters interact with each other, and what it was like to be in the rebellion and what it was like to be on the Empire, but still have feelings for each other. It was a remarkably good book. In fact, it was probably, going back to when I started reading Star Wars, I think that might have been, outside of the Heir to the Empire trilogy I read in high school or middle school, that might have been the first book I read a few years ago. And it turned me into a Star Wars book fan. And that's where my love for those books came from. Claudia Gray also wrote a book called Master and Apprentice, which is about Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. You might remember Qui-Gon. He is the Jedi from the first movie, The Phantom Menace. He's the one that fought Darth Maul and ended up losing his life to Darth Maul just before Obi-Wan sliced Darth Maul in half. So there's that one. Great, fantastic book. There was also two books that she wrote about Princess Leia. One when Leia was a teenager, and she's going through a training camp, so to speak, for people that are going to go into politics. That's called Leia from Alderaan, I believe. And then there was another one that she wrote later on in life called Bloodlines. And this is about Leia when she's in the Senate, and the secret of her being Darth Vader's daughter comes out, and the repercussions that come from that knowledge. Again, absolutely fantastic book. While this book or this list wasn't necessarily in order from least to most favorite, because I said Kenobi was my most favorite. This right here is probably the best Star Wars book that's ever been written. And that's saying something, because I think very highly of Heir to the Empire. But this is the novelization of Revenge of the Sith by Matthew Stover. And in this particular book, it tells the story of the movie, The Revenge of the Sith, but it goes so much deeper than the movie was able to. You really get into Anakin's mindset and why he was doing the things that he was doing. What was his driving motivation? You get to see more of the machinations. Is that how you say that word? Machinations of Emperor Palpatine, or Senator Palpatine before he became the Emperor. You really get to see all of those things, and it gives you a greater appreciation for Anakin and why he did the things that he did. Not just because he was a dumb kid in love. He really had a deep motivation. This book right here, phenomenal. I mean, literally the best Star Wars book that has ever been written. And there are some really good ones. So there you go. Those are the books that are my favorite Star Wars books. We got, I think that's like 10, 11, if you count all of them, because you got 2 trilogies. You got Kenobi, and then you've got Revenge of the Sith. So that's 8, plus the ones that Claudia Gray wrote. So there you go. That's about 10 or 11 to get you started. I'm certain that if this video does well, or if you leave it in the comments, I'll make some other videos. Recently, one of my neighbors was downsizing, and he gifted me about 70 different Star Wars books. So I've got Star Wars books to last me for a very long time that I am planning to read and share with you all as I read through them. So there you go. Those are my favorite Star Wars books that I think you should read. And I want to know, have you read any of those titles? Or which one of those titles is the most intriguing to you? Leave that down in the comments. Let me know if you'd like more Star Wars content. Typically, I do middle grade stuff, but I'd be happy to do some more Star Wars stuff for y'all. And as always, my name is Jonathan. This is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. I'll see you next time.